Good morning. Happy Wednesday. There we go. We are live on Twitch and we are live on YouTube. Good morning. It is Wednesday, March 12th, 2025. We are off to the races. This South by Southwest week is catching up with me. I had a hard time getting to bed last night and a harder time getting up, but here we are. Welcome. This is Dev Jobs Daily, your daily week daily stream, Monday through Friday. I normally stream 8 to 9 a.m., but this week is South by Southwest here in Austin, Texas, where I'm broadcasting from. With so much going on, I pulled back a little bit, and we're just doing 30-minute streams in the morning. So we'll be here for another 29 minutes. In that time, we're going to look at some job postings, get a sense of the trends in the tech world, how the hiring is going. We're going to look at some news, get some new news today about the state of the economy. And if we have some time, we'll dig into a few more tech stories. But as this is South by Southwest week, I am plugging my new app that I created for South by Southwest, and it is an app to find free things to do around town. It is at sxfreesw.com. sxfreesw.com. That's South by Free Southwest. We are not affiliated with South by Southwest. They pretty much charge for everything. Not completely. They put a couple of free things on, but mainly there are lots of other things that go on. Some by the companies that come to town officially for South by Southwest. They put on little side parties and mixers and networking opportunities. But I had close to 240 items in the database for this 10-day period. We're on the second half of it. Everything's going to wrap up this weekend. Still some events. Yesterday, I think there were 15 events simultaneously at one point during the day. Things are cooling off today. Only 6 maybe simultaneously, but still a fair amount of things to get out and do and see for the next couple of days, but it will be trailing off as we get towards the weekend. And this map and this timeline gives you a really good sense of kind of where things are and when things are, so that if you're in the middle of something that's not particularly interesting, you might be able to check what's nearby that you can kind of bail and go check out, right? So this is a free app. It doesn't take any email or login information. Just hit the website at sxfreesw.com. sxfreesw.com. Please share it with any and all of your friends who are in and around the Austin area. And let's get to it. So, every day I wake up and have woken up for 350 days. 950 days. 950 days, going on 3 years. And checked the job postings. I have focused on JavaScript developers because my day job, is managing a coding school. And I want to get a sense of what's going on in the industry for our students who are learning to code, wanting to break into tech. And so I've focused my attention on what's going on with programming language of JavaScript, which is the language of the web. The front-end web primarily, but the web in general. Where JavaScript goes, so goes the internet in a lot of ways. So it's good. Thumbnail view. And we can see from these graphs in the last 7 days we've had a bit of a downturn. If you've been paying attention to the news at all, stock market's been down for a week. Every day it just keeps dropping like a rock. When the stock market's down, when financial news and uncertainty is in the air, companies feel less confident with their ability to hire, so they just don't put out as many job postings. This is a headwind that a lot of business, especially tech business, wasn't expecting. They thought with the new administration it was going to be very business friendly, and they were going to get to run the show. But so far, that's not working out so well for them and or for us. Again, we've had some headwinds in the last 18 months, 2 years really, and we thought we were going to kind of turn some things around, but it isn't quite taken off like we'd hope. But there are still job postings, new ones I see every day. So if you're out in the market, the key is just being consistent, getting up, checking the freshest job postings. Job boards like Indeed, where I get my data from, have the ability to filter for the last 24 hours, and you should always do that because you want to be at the top of the stack for any job posting, because they never get to the bottom of the stack for most of these job postings. It's very easy to apply to jobs on a lot of these job boards, and as a result they get lots and lots of applications. So you want to make sure that you can get in there in the first 10 to 12 hours and get your application in at the top of the stack. So last 7 days, not so great, headed in the wrong direction. We want to see that turn around. Last 6 months, it is trending up slightly. We want to see that, 6 months ago, it was a little harder to get a job than it is today. We'll take any good news that we can, but when we look at the last year, we'll see that this time last year, which would also account for seasonal differences, there were just more job postings coming out this time last year than there are this year. Again, we were really hoping to see that trend, seasonal trend, plus a little bit of a bump with the new administration happen, and we were hoping to see these numbers up almost double of what they are right now, but everything's been flat for the last 2 months since the inauguration, basically. New administration came in. They started signing lots of signing statements, presidential signing statements, and all that has caused a lot of uncertainty. And where that's coming and where that's going, we don't have a crystal ball. But again, we focus on those things we can control, and that is getting up every day and getting out those job applications. All right. If you have not connected with me on LinkedIn, please do. I'm pretty easy to find, and I'm on LinkedIn all the time because this is where recruiters go to find people. This is where we post essentially our resume online, so that that companies can find us. And it also has a pretty good news feed that gives us a few stories every day that are kind of pertinent to primarily tech, but also the greater economy. So we're going to hit a couple of those stories this morning. House passes a bill to avoid a shutdown. There was, with all this tariff stuff going on, there wasn't much talk about what's going on in the government shutdown. That was going to be a big fight. It still is a big fight. They've kicked the can down the road, but I'm sure it got a little easier to kick the can down the road with all the chaos that's going on in the stock market right now, with all of the changes coming to the federal government. The idea of adding a federal shutdown on top of it seemed like a bad move for the current administration. So it looks like they were able to pass the short-term, the short-term funding bill, but with not much of a margin, 4-vote margin. So now the bill heads to the Senate, where it will require bipartisan support to move past the filibuster to avoid a Saturday night shutdown. So we're not out of the woods yet, but they are making some progress. Tech giants back nuclear push. We've been hearing about this for a couple of months, primarily since Microsoft jumped into the mix and took over 3 Mile Island. This is all, of course, motivated by the energy needs of artificial intelligence and machine learning, which people have been talking about for a year now, is going to be significant and put a strain on our grid, which is already kind of, in need of an upgrade. Has been in need for an upgrade for a couple of decades, but we haven't really done anything significant about it. We started to see these kind of issues pop up in different parts of the country around Bitcoin and the blockchain, because Bitcoin miners were using a lot of juice and they needed the cheapest energy in order to make their Bitcoin math work. In here in Texas, we've had a number of Bitcoin operations open up close to oil fields and natural gas fields, so that they get a little less expensive power that they were siphoning off from the grid. And but there are times in the winter times in the summer when it gets pretty hot in Texas that the grid managers were like, all right, you're gonna have to shut down the Bitcoin operation for 2 or 3 days because we need the power to run everybody's ACs. So it was already kind of showing the limits of what was needed before AI, and then AI came out, and all of a sudden, it was just a energy pig, man. It takes up a lot of juice to train and run these models. So there's been a big push to get back to nuclear, but there's so much regulation around nuclear that it's not like these tech startups and these tech giants are used to moving fast and breaking things, and you just can't. Which is fine in the AI space, it's fine in the blockchain space, because there's not very much regulation there, so there's no government pushback. But man, when it comes to energy and nuclear energy, it's been around for decades now, since the 60s and the 70s, and there's tons of regulation around that. So finding ways to navigate that and get new plants online, I forget the numbers, but I remember seeing numbers. It's like it takes 10 to 20 years or something crazy like that to get a new nuclear power online. And then, of course, where are you going to put it? Because of the high-profile accidents in the past, both in the United States and elsewhere, nobody wants it in their backyard. Nobody wants NIMBY nuclear power. So we'll see. I follow this stuff, and there's been talk that I've been hearing since the 90s about like small nuclear plants that were the size of container, shipping containers that would be buried underground, that could provide power for like a neighborhood. Instead of having these big, huge, dangerous things, you'd have basically well protected, well insulated, uh, different take on how we generate nuclear power. These small plants. I forget there's a acronym for these small nuclear plants, but they, because of regulation and because of stuff that works in the lab doesn't necessarily work in the real world. Um, this is the promise that just has not delivered. And literally every year, I'm seeing news stories about somebody else has got a take on this thing. But I've been seeing those stories for 30 years. So, I don't know. We'll see. We got to figure it out. One thing's going to have to happen. Either we're going to have to come up with a magical way to get more power, or we're going to have to cut these models down so that they're not so processor intensive, power intensive. Something's gotta give. Inflation slower than expected. Relatively new story, just dropped. Key price gauge on Wednesday rose less than expected as economists tried to parse the impact of tariffs on growth and inflation. These are trailing indicators. So first of all, we don't know what the impact of tariffs are going to be because it's going to take a while for some of them. Some of them will be pretty quick. Others, it'll take a while to see the effect. But the U.S. Consumer Price Index rose an annual 2.8% in February, down from 3% in January. So prices still going up, but not going up as fast. Generally, that would be a good thing. But this next sentence, which excludes that 2.8%, is excluding volatile items such as food and energy prices. The core measure rolled 3.1%. So, this is how they slice and dice the numbers to make it sound, better than they want it to. Most people are concerned about food prices and energy prices because for the vast majority of Americans, that's a significant portion of their weekly budget and their monthly budget. So, to say you're excluding that number and then the number's not so bad, again, that's fibbing with statistics is what that is. But again, they're saying that it is slowing. Again, it's not going down. It's still rising, but not as quickly. This report is one of the last ones before the Federal Reserve meets to set interest rates and release economic projections next week. So we'll hear. The last time they met, they did not lower the rates, and they said they didn't anticipate lowering the rates. So I don't think the people who bet on such things have a lot of confidence that they are going to lower rates, but we'll see. The president needs some good news, and while traditionally we have not wanted the president to put his thumb on a scale in terms of the Federal Reserve, it's supposed to be independent. He chose a Federal Reserve head. So, all bets are off with this new administration. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Airlines add to recession concerns. Americans aren't spending as much on airfare, according to Delta, Southwest, and American Airlines. All three major carriers lower their revenue earnings forecasts, citing softening demand. The reduced guidance is the latest in a series of flashing indicators that consumers are losing the nerve and amid tariff uncertainty and rising recession fears. Concerns over Trump's administration trade policies and spending cuts have increased economic unease and rattled the markets. Again, I can point to another article last week that said, 20-somethings and 30-somethings that couldn't afford a house, and so they're traveling more. They're like, I'm not going to ever be able to afford a house, so I might as well just use that little bit of extra money, not as a down payment on a house, but to go travel to Japan. I've always wanted to go to Japan. The whole thing is a bit of a mixed bag. It's hard to make these sweeping prognostications, but here we are. Job market resilient, but risks grows. Again, these are trailing numbers, so I wouldn't put a whole lot of stock in them. The glimpse of the labor market at the start of the year reflected resilient trends. Again, as we looked at this number, actually I didn't show it. Let's look at that real quick. Um, these are the entry-level job postings, but I also track the job postings for JavaScript developers, and I slice them in different ways, including, excuse me, all job postings in the U.S., which is this blue line, remote job postings, which is this red line, in all of the U.S., and then I slice it by entry-level, mid-level, and senior-level roles, both in person or flexible, and then remote, right? And you'll see, in general, the trend lines are up because the first 2-3 weeks of January, there was a huge spike. And then the inauguration happened, and everything flattened out. It's been flat, right? So when we look at this story about the job market, and they're talking about there were increased openings in January, yes, there were. Because, again, there was a bump based on the election. Everybody thought, oh, it's going to be happy days are here again for business, and so let's go on a hiring spree. Let's get back to innovation. Let's get back to growing our company, not just cutting our costs. And so there was a bump there. But all that has changed. So this is a lagging indicator and is not instructive at all. It's important when you look at these headlines to dive just a little bit deeper to get a sense of what's going on in the greater story. Right? Here's about this. Let me see that. Second. Okay. So here we go. Lower earners feel the squeeze. United States escalating tariff war in Canada, Mexico, and China will add to an already intense economic pressure for lower income Americans who are facing this. The cohort isn't just stung harder by stubborn inflation. They will experience more hardship once tariffs are passed on to consumers, since lower earners spend a bigger share of their paychecks on the basics. February's Consumer Price Index out Wednesday is expected to show tariffs' initial effects on items like clothing and electronics from China, but we won't really see the the reality of this stuff. He's doing this hokey pokey with the tariffs, putting them on, taking them out, putting them on, taking them out, threatening, and then backing up at the last minute. We saw this week that Canada didn't want to play that game and said, even though he pulled back on his initial tariffs, they said, you know what? We're not playing that game. You say tariffs, we say tariffs. You want to play chicken? We're coming with the tariffs. So, all that stuff is escalating into this pissing contest between, the two largest enemies on the globe, America and Canada. We have been at war with each other for as long as I can remember. I can't remember the last time we weren't being bombed by Canada. Having a hard time even remember a time before the Great Cold War between America and Canada. But here we are. Things change. Some things stay the same. All right. What do we got? Niantic, the Pokemon Go studio, sold for $3.5 billion. That is crazy. I remember in 2016 when it dropped because my kids were very young and we were all about the Pokemon Go. We were getting in the car and driving to the other side of town because that's where you needed to go to find certain Pokemon. Um, and I ended up playing that game for many years. Um, I don't currently play it. And as a result, I don't touch my phone very much. I was on Pokemon Go every day, um, as you need to be in order to maximize your play. But those days are behind me now. New MacBook Air has finally come. A lot of people yawning about it. Uh, One thing I heard was you could get 3 screens with it, and that made it attractive to me. I was like, 3 screens? I like the idea of 3 screens. I always want more real estate. Always want more real estate. And I take, with my laptop, I have a work Mac laptop, MacBook, that's a few years old now. And then I have a personal PC laptop. And I take a separate monitor along with me when I go to co-working spaces and the like, so I can have an extra second monitor. But 3 monitors for mobile? It's tempting. It is tempting. Otherwise, most people are kind of nonplussed. I haven't been about the Air. We've talked about this in the past. I'd rather have a larger battery on a laptop than a super thin laptop. Just make it the same size as all the other laptops, but give me 3 times the battery life, and I'm happy to lug around a little bit heavier. A little bit heavier. iPhone 17 leaks show off groundbreaking designs. This is the thing. They're rushing out these stories. They probably leaked this because all the stories this week and this weekend where everybody is bored with all the new drops that they've got at Apple. They haven't done any innovation, so leaking that there's a major upgrade coming, I'm guessing is probably from them. WebKit 0-day vulnerability hack. It's no good. Apple software update will radically change the iPhone, iPad, and Mac. Again, it feels like this is all reaction to the news coverage of their iPhone event, or their Mac event. Really, it's a dramatic software overhaul. Oh, the biggest things are coming. We swear. We'll see. Meta Ray-Bans get a sleek new translucent limited edition release. Not super interested in that. Conan O'Brien at South by Southwest. Blizzard video game chat. I want to be in the next what? Mark Cuban is bullish on AI. Rivian is literally everywhere, and Conan O'Brien gets a doom hammer. Okay. Yep. Austin, Texas, really is the focus of a lot of tech news come second week in March every year because of South by Southwest. AI goes mainstream at South by Southwest. And they have a story here about 5 tech-related events to check out at South by Southwest. You can also go to, seems like a good segue as we wrap up the half hour. I created this app if you're new to joining the stream at sxfreesw.com. It is a free app at southbyfreesouthwest.com. It's not affiliated with South by Southwest, but it will help you find and save the latest and most interesting events going on in the tech space. So For the next 4 days, we still have some events. The big days were earlier in the week, Monday and Tuesday, but as we sort of work towards the end of the week and the weekend, these events are going to be trailing off as South by Southwest kind of the tech space starts to wrap up. There will still be music festival stuff going on through the end of the week and the weekend. So we'll start transitioning into more free music events, but there's still tech events going on Friday. Not many, but a couple. Futures, not that. These are both music. That's cinema. Futuristic films. I think that's music also. Grounding Lounge, Upgrade Less. Yeah, so come Friday, it's probably going to be all music at that point. But yeah, Ableton, Biohackers, DOVR. There's still some tech events going on today and tomorrow. Check them out. Share the app with your friends. It is at sxfreesw.com. Okay, well, this is it. We're 1 minute over. Time to wrap it up for the day. But we will be back in 23 hours and 30 minutes to continue our chat. Get those job apps out. Consistency is key. All right, have a great day.